Welcome to a new Daily Top AskReddit video. Today's topic:
Venezuelans, what is the situation inside the country currently? I think we should all take this time to remember that anyone online can say they're from anywhere when making their comments. On top of that, bots exist. As an astronaut, I approve of this message. As someone with a large penis who totally just sexually satisfied Ana de Armas, I concur. As a marine biologist and president of Vandelay Industries, I agree. People are taking shelter in their homes out of fear of the Venezuelan military. Lots of people are celebrating on social media, but there is also a ton of uncertainty. I don't like interventionism and I criticize imperialism in general, but I am also extremely conflicted on the matter because I also wanted to see Maduro and his dictatorship gone. Another Venezuelan here, and I agree. I hope this plays out to see your opposition take power and someone finally sorts out your country, giving you guys true democratic representation. That's exactly how I feel. My family chats are going off, most are celebrating, others are now wondering what's going to happen in this power vacuum. Machado. Edmund, making sure Distado and Vladimir are not able to cement Maduro loyalists in absentia. I'd like to believe my people deserve hope after all of us having to run and be exiled for decades. At the same time, the oil reserves. What happened in Iraq and Afghanistan? And other Latin American countries? Sigh. Many Venezuelans are celebrating this, but for outsiders it's important not to think of them as naive, as they are responding rationally to lived experience after roughly 26 years under Chavez and then Maduro that brought food shortages, currency collapse, a broken medical system, mass emigration, repression, and no credible electoral exit. When protests, elections, negotiations, and international pressure all fail, the removal of the regime by an outside force can feel like liberation rather than imperialism, and that reaction is human, not ideological. At the same time, this is not a purely egalitarian U.S. act, but it is not purely cynical either. The U.S. has removed a deeply illegitimate regime and created a possibility, not a guarantee, of democratic renewal, which is morally meaningful to people on the ground. But it is also not acting as a neutral humanitarian arbiter, is not subordinating itself to international law, and is clearly operating with strategic self-interest. Oil and hemispherical control are not the only motives, but they are part of the calculus, especially under Trump's rehashed Monroe Doctrine worldview that treats the Western Hemisphere as a U.S. security zone, prioritizes results over legal process, and sees resource control as strategically important. This does not make Venezuelans wrong for celebrating. It means their liberation and U.S. interests overlap imperfectly and temporarily, which history shows can be true at the same time. The global consequence, though, is that this further weakens the post-war international order by normalizing regime change and governance by force, making rules feel optional and power the deciding factor, which other major states will cite and replicate in ways that ultimately make the world less stable for everyone. That precedent will not stay contained, as China will point to it to justify moves on Taiwan or in the South China Sea, and Russia will cite it to rationalize further aggression in Ukraine or elsewhere, accelerating a world where might replaces law and instability becomes the norm. I spoke to my mother and some friends in Maracaibo. It's all quiet and long lines at the supermarkets. I hope your family stays safe while they navigate those supermarket lines. Maduro's master plan to emigrate to the US. Until they deport him for being there illegally, at least he will be near home when he's sent to El Salvador. Trump runs Maduro and his wife up on stage in handcuffs to stand there as her delivers a 50-minute speech about himself and how great he is. 42 minutes in, Trump falls asleep and doesn't even notice when ICE agents rush in, tackle Maduro, fondle his wife and then tackle her, and drag them both off to a plane heading for Venezuela. Kristi Noem holds a press conference about it before Trump wakes up. She possibly shoots a reporter's dog. The next day, Trump wakes up and sees Maduro on TV in Venezuela and decides it's time to send in the SEALs to capture him. People are happy but cautiously watching the situation. Truth is, Maduro is not as important as two other individuals who control the army. There are no confirmation whether they are dead or alive yet, so people aren't declaring themselves free. The government has sent the army and collectivos, paramilitary armed thugs that have license to kill, to rein in people and ensure no more dissent is seen. Venezuelans support regime change since the government stole last year's elections, again. If the rest of the state apparatus is still in place, what are the odds that anything changes? And if the opposition leaders are installed, what are the odds they will continue to promote democracy once they themselves hold power? I don't want to be too cynical, but this type of operation does not historically lead to good outcomes. You are completely right in having doubts, we have them as well. The leaders of the Venezuelan army, as well as the shot callers of the SEBIN and the Colectivos, are Diosdado Cabello, Hugo Chávez's right-hand man and one of the original perpetrators of a failed coup before Chávez went into politics, and Padrino López, the most influential general in the army and tied alongside Cabello as leaders of the Cartel de los Soles. If these two aren't dead or captured, then nothing will change and won't allow Maria Corina Machado and Edmundo back. In regards to democratic rule, if I'm being honest, the opposition party needs to weed out a few sellouts that have undermined Maria Corina, but other than that, she and Edmundo are sincere in their wishes to rebuild the country back. They also need to make away with indefinite rule term, which was forcefully passed by Chávez when it was rejected in the referendum. Can't wait for this post to be filled with posts from non-Venezuelans. Or people lying that they are Venezuelan. I have family in Venezuela and they are celebrating his capture. Removed. That's a serious cup of coffee. Freedom is delicious, I will forever remember this. Coup of coffee. American here, I'll have what he's having. An Americano please. US citizen here, can you share with me that coffee recipe? Weird, because in your other posts you state have an IRA and a 401k, which don't exist in Venezuela. Also post a lot in NY plus Astoria subs. Liar liar pants on fire. Go to a Venezuelan sub, they are happy to see Maduro dictatorship finally end. I have a few people I know living in Venezuela and they were praying for an intervention since many months. They are happy today. As North Americans, we need to understand how terrible the Maduro and Chavez regimes were. For them, American intervention, with all the unknowns and negatives we can see, appeared like a better solution. Now you don't get it, those are upperclassmen Venezuelan because they speak English. 111.1. Because first world tankies think we're all uncultured swine that can't learn another language. A dictatorship doesn't end because the dictator disappears. It didn't when Chavez disappeared, for example. The vacuum that appears can be even worse than the status quo. Hopefully the US realizes they can't fetch one guy and hope the rest will just sort itself out. I am very happy but skeptical at the same time. We all thought this was gonna be over with Hugo Chávez's death 13 years ago, but here we are still. I know it isn't much, but we're praying for you guys. I hope everything turns out for the best. Do you know of any organizations that are helping ATM we can donate to? Colombian here, cautiously optimistic. A lot of Americans don't understand just how hated Maduro was in South America. Like he was hated so much. https://www.reddit.com/r/gta6/comments/1pact5l/comments/1/NSPKK/question mark UTM_source=share and UTM_medium=web3x and UTM_name=web3x CSS and UTM_term=1 and UTM_content=share_button. You live in Colombia or Florida. As a native of Ocala, Florida. Edit, he's an American whose parents are from Colombia. That's different from living in Colombia, which is why the original wording was confusing and why I asked. https://www.reddit.com/r/gta6/comments/1pact5l/comments/nspkk/question mark UTM_source=share and UTM_medium=web3x and UTM_name=web3x CSS and UTM_term=1 and UTM_content=share_button. You live in Colombia or Florida. As a native of Ocala, Florida. Apparently the concept of moving, or having a nationality that doesn't match the area you were raised, is a foreign one. Easily could be first-generation American, multi-generation Colombian with family still in SA. Tons of Colombians live in Florida. There was massive emigration from Colombia in the 20th century when the narcos were in charge, and Florida was an incredibly common destination. Maybe dual citizenship, Colombian parents but born in Florida. You're about to get a lot of Venezuelans sharing their opinions. Classic Reddit, if someone from another country says something that I don't like, I thereby declare that said person is not from that country, because how someone dare to say what I don't want to believe. Redditors really are fucking racist, aren't they? This is how I feel when I talk about Cuba, as someone who has her entire family in Cuba lol. I mentioned one time how my family goes days without power, food and someone said I was a bot spreading propaganda LMAO. I read a comment in a different thread earlier, who cares what Venezuelans think, by someone who I'm sure thinks they know better. You're about to get a lot of Venezuelans sharing their opinions. You don't need to worry too much. There's plenty of verified Venezuelans, famous or otherwise, on social media rejoicing at Maduro being taken out of power. The majority of Venezuelan citizens are happy with this, regardless of whether or not invading a country is bad. It is. My brother-in-law is from Venezuela. I asked him about it today and he said this is a good thing. Maduro was awful and wouldn't leave after being voted out. The elected president was in exile in Spain and hopefully can take over now. Just his perspective. He isn't a Trump supporter at all but said this is one of the only good things he has done. I live in Canada and know a newly arrived Venezuelan 36 years old single mother. She loves Trump and I haven't talked to her today, but I'm sure she will be very happy about this. People are sheltering in place. There is a lot of uncertainty, lots of confusion and waiting for things to blow over hoping it won't affect them. Source, in contact with friends inside and outside Caracas on WhatsApp. People are terrified. Edit, update, quoting directly from a friend in Venezuela. Everybody is really why happy. They're still their big heads. But the high head are waiting for the international to do something. Yes, her English is not the best, but neither is my Spanish. Basically lots are very happy that Maduro is gone and lots aren't thinking about the possible consequences right now after the initial fear. She says, they will save their worries for when things change.